Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. You're watching Mainebiz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
It's Rapid Fire Sunday. Today, to talk about the issues facing Maine's business community, we have John Mahon, the John M. Murphy Chair of International Business Policy and Strategy and Professor of Management at the University of Maine's Business School; Keith Luke, Director of Economic and Community Development in Westbrook; Kathie Leonard, CEO of Auburn Manufacturing; and Chip Morrison, President of the Androscoggin County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here. First thing is, you got to get a smaller title.
Yeah, it is way too long, isn't it?
Glad you're here. All right, we got a bunch of issues we're going to just jump in on today and see what you think about them. And the first one is, I'm calling this issue number one, a different kind of hope and change. Governor Paul LePage has issued a set of 63 proposals to change Maine state regulatory procedures, many in the Department of Environmental Protection. Among the proposed changes are replacing the Board of Environmental Protection with a full-time professional administrative law judge, measures to keep state environmental standards from exceeding federal guidelines, repealing the Informed Growth Act, and requiring that at least 30% of the 10 million acres of unorganized territory under LERC be zoned for development. Lisa Pullman, Executive Director of the National Resource Council for Maine, called the list of changes, quote, an ideological push rather than a reasoned, science-based approach. Chip, I'm going to start with you. Are they the right direction and the right amount?
Some of the specifics I have no understanding of what goes behind them. Okay. But the governor asked, and a number of us responded, what are the changes we need? We had 9 pages of regulatory changes
from your members,
from our members in the environmental area. A big portion of those are all about attitude. The attitude of regulators when working with a business that wants to develop something. You know, there are 2 ways to go about a problem. How can we do this to make a business profitable and work in Maine to hire people and take care of the environment, or how can we stop this thing completely? Mm-hmm. And what businesses want when they face environmental regulations are 2 things. One, somebody who's reasonable with them, and then answers in a reasonable time frame.
Right. We've heard a lot about that time frame issue.
And it's a matter of certainty and predictability, and environmental regulations have had neither of those. And the 9 pages that we put together are a lot of stuff about stormwater, some very specific stuff, but it boils down to this can work if people are working to work together, and it isn't always the case.
Kathie, I want to go to you next with that same issue. What's your response to that? I mean, obviously running a manufacturing firm, you probably have had some run-ins with regulators, and you probably are one of those part of the 9 pages, wanting some things to narrow down. But does this really fit, and did they go too far? How does this fit with the Brookings Institute's recommendations, let's say? Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to speak to you from 31 years of experience of being a business person here in the state of Maine, and having a manufacturing business that does have wastewater issues, and over the years we've worked very hard to be a good corporate citizen. We are in the city of Auburn, where we do have a very good tertiary treatment center, and over the years we've had no issues since we've been in the city of Auburn. The rules have been consistent, and we've abided by all the test requirements and so forth. Our rates have gone up in the past couple of years. I don't know if that's just a factor of the economy or what. That's kind of scary when you start seeing the rates go up. But overall, I think they've been very fair. But that's with regard to the type of business we're in. We're not a developer. I think that's a different kind of business, and I remember when Angus King was governor, he promised that you'd get answers within 30 days, for instance. That's a real good goal to shoot for any kind of economic development.
Keith, I'm going to go to you and tell us about businesses you're talking to, too. What's the responses? Are we feeling more business friendly today or not?
I think the answer to that question on one important level is yes. The Forbes study that was frequently cited during the election cycle.
We didn't do so well.
Except we did dead last.
Right.
And I think that rather than look at that as a study in and of itself, it was a compendium of different studies evaluating Maine's business climate, many of which were subjective. That means that there were many people answering questions about their perceived issues with regulatory, the regulatory environment in Maine, who hadn't necessarily even participated in the regulatory process themselves or recently.
Right.
That's important. I think many of those people who rated Maine negatively in that kind of a subjective format would give a very different answer today than they did 6 or 8 months ago. Okay. So I think on that basis, we could talk about whether that actually we've accomplished anything. We haven't yet.
Okay.
But I think those same type of people who participate in those subjective analysis will be singing a different tune or are ready to. We'll see where that goes.
And it's interesting that the whole issue of objectivity versus subjectivity. Some of these things are very specific and quantifiable. Some of them are subjective. What do you think about that, John? Did we go too far real quickly on this one?
Well, can I give you a different thought?
Sure.
And with the Chamber of Commerce is here, I have property in the unorganized territories. I pay my taxes to the state at a substantially lower rate than I'd pay it if I owned it in a city or what have you. So it's going to be interesting if you have a business that's thinking about expanding, and I don't know where the stampede is to expand into the unorganized territories. I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah, but if I were one of my local Chamber of Commerce colleagues, I would wonder, would I want to expand in a place where it's cheaper to operate?
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on to issue number 2. Issue number 2, FairPoint. Out of the woods? Really? Federal Bankruptcy Court gave FairPoint Communications the green light to emerge from Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The reorganization plan includes shedding about $1.7 million in debt. FairPoint also announced that it has met its state goal to expand broadband access to 83% of its customers. Since 2008, the company's invested $37 million in Maine, raising broadband access from 68.9% to 83.4%. So my question, I guess, I'm going to start with Keith on this one. A year ago, businesses were out with the pitchforks and torches ready to storm the castle. How does it look now? Are we all okay?
Well, I think that as long as FairPoint's building a broadband network in the woods, we'll never be out of the woods.
Ooh. We got a soundbite, okay? Go ahead.
I think the good news for FairPoint is that they're out of the headlines. I think that their performance, at least from a 10,000-foot level looking down, has definitely improved over the last year. I think that the bright spot, if I were FairPoint, is that businesses have become and will continue to be dependent on not only Internet access, but redundant Internet access, where before a company like a Disability RMS in Westbrook might have felt either fortunate or felt fine with one pipe into their business, now they want 2 or 3. And FairPoint is well positioned to be one of those 2 or 3 providers.
Okay. Chip, I'm going to ask you to weigh on this one too. What are your members thinking? Are they feeling better about FairPoint?
I don't know, better about FairPoint. We're in a relatively developed urban area, so that the broadband access has not been a real issue for most of the businesses. I mean, the issue of redundancy that was mentioned is exactly an issue that some people, particularly people who whole livelihood around it. We have a fair number of call centers. They've got to build in redundancy or it won't work. Because you can't wait for it. You can't function if it's down.
Right.
That's right.
Again,
as a business person, we have 2 plants 7 miles apart, and we have Internet access there that allows our plants to communicate with wireless. All our inventory is in real time now, scanning and so forth. So it's essential. We were just talking about this yesterday. We don't know how we would run our business today if we didn't have Internet access. It would be so much more expensive. So I hope they're extremely successful.
I think that's what I'm hearing.
We need it.
That sounds good. I really hope they do continue to make the mark. Okay, I'm going to wrap this segment right here. We're going to keep you around. Stick around. Stay with us. We'll be right back to tackle more issues, including we're going to come back and talk about the states joining the Obamacare lawsuit. Is that smart business for Maine? Stick around.
Mainebiz Sunday is brought to you by Bangor Savings Bank, where you can enjoy free ATMs worldwide.